In this example, we're going to take a look at Xai Workbench, and specifically the model we'll be querying to get information from and then act on that information. So click on Xai Workbench in your portal homepage, and then we've already pre-populated some models to get you started. So we'll click on Models in the upper right, and then we'll click on Model Actions for the Telco Churn model. This is a Sim Classify Plus model, and we see that it's running. So once we get into the model actions, we want to query the model. So within Xai Workbench, we can actually query models and get results back right within the page. So we're going to choose the folder that has the data we'll use to query the model. And then we're going to work with customer ID 9. So we can ask it to show us 10 items. We could have gone to page 2, but here's our person number 9. We see across the top these column headings or features, and those match or mirror what we saw in our JSON file. Very similar, might be slightly different order, but they're all present. So let's see what happens when we send the data for customer ID 9 to our model. Will this customer churn or not? Now, in this case, churn is identified as the number 1, and not churning or staying is identified as the number 0. So without editing anything, I'm just going to click the predict button and let's see what happens. All right, our model has returned a prediction that says yes, indeed, customer number 9 will churn with a 73.6% confidence. Now, that's what a lot of black box models do return, is some sort of a predicted outcome or predicted class, and then a likelihood of that prediction coming true. In our case, let's click on justification and see a little bit more about this prediction specifically. Now, as you look at machine learning vendors, many machine learning model platform companies will show you a graph very similar to this. However, in the case of those graphs, they're actually showing you more the shape of the model itself. What are the features that were most critical to the creation of this model. What we're looking at together is what are those features that were critical to the outcome of this single prediction. So we have hyper visibility into each prediction as it comes along. And we see some other really interesting things about this graph that you won't necessarily see out there with other machine learning vendors, and that's the following. You see that contract appears not just one time, but 3 times in the result. The first time, it's the most influential feature that related to the churn outcome, and that was this month-to-month value in the contract field. And this little plus sign off to the right hand side says that the fact that that was present was an important feature of why this prediction ended up the way it did. If we come down, the next most influential thing about that contract field is the fact that 2-year was missing. That's what this plus and minus means. So a lot of models will tell you the presence of certain features were influential in the model. We're telling you the presence of certain features were influential in this prediction, and the absence of other features are also influential in this prediction. That's tremendously valuable when you have a field that can have more than 2 things. Because if it only has 2 outcomes, then the presence of one thing is equally as important as the absence of its opposite. Right? But when we have multiple choices for a single field, the fact that you can see specifically that 2-year being absent was critically important to this outcome tells you a lot about what you might want to offer your customer instead. So Let's now see how we might tease this information out in our decision automation solution.